part of my job is to reboot our thinking in terms of where money can come from. So when we started teaching about this stuff, we were looking at the hemorrhage of resources from LA, knowing sustainability was the goal. We thought we need to actually build it, not just talk about it. And so we retrofitted a house in South LA. We created a flash flood on it. We brought a bunch of people, many of you there. For the first 2 years that people came there, especially agency leaders, they all got dizzy. They felt weird, and they all said it. And we knew it wasn't the water in the cistern, and we weren't using gray water. What was happening was we had integrated systems just like here. No water ran off. All the water was captured. We eliminated a water pollution problem, a flooding problem, a water supply problem, multiples. And every agency person, what happened was their mind was connecting the dots, all in a simple site. And as the dots were connecting of issues that we've broken into separate departments and separate budgets, when the dots started connecting, every single person who showed up there for the first 2 years reported that they got dizzy. With excitement, by the way, as it was coming together. So, very basic. Want you to see what happened with infrastructure. This is a tree with a halo. I won't try to turn off the light. There's a tree there. As one basic unit of integrated infrastructure, I want to show this as a quick example of how we disintegrated and also the opportunity to do what we're doing together to reintegrate. So a tree has capacity to do all kinds of things like produce oxygen, filter the air, but it also grabs water. In the space underneath the tree, if this is a huge California oak, 100 feet in diameter, the space underneath the tree, filled with mulch, the things that fall out of the tree that we truck to the landfill, the soil, the critters, that space down here catches rainfall first in the canopy, rainfall then flows into that space beneath it. According to the U.S. Forest Service Research Lab in Davis, California, and the scientist is here who did the calcs, this space, 100 feet wide, 5 feet deep, filled with mulch, rocks, all that stuff. The capacity is 57,000 gallons of rainwater from a flash flood, 12 inches. 57,000 gallons. Now, what's important about this is what happens when you take the tree out. If you take the tree out, then we all start building infrastructure. 57,000 gallons in one flash flood, we got to create a flood control agency. And what moves along with the water that's flowing off? Well, the water's not going into our water supply. Boop, we got to create a water supply agency to work on groundwater recharge. It's carrying with it soil. We need a soil conservation service. It's taken with it all the green waste. Oh, we need a Department of Sanitation. And it goes on and on and on. From the point that we lost that lovely simple integration of a tree and we started building agencies, and the best way we knew how, we put them in separate bureaucracies, but the integration stopped. And each agency had to build infrastructure and needed a budget. And that needed to be maintained and upgraded. But the integration never came back, right? Because we started suing you if you weren't doing your job right and you needed to control what you were doing. Reasonable way of operating. The problem is it created all kinds of hemorrhaging. So here's the diagram of LA as disintegrated. This is a simple and simplified numbers, but it is also a diagram of hemorrhage and opportunity. So water supply. David, what's our DWP's water budget now per year? This year?
In terms of dollars?
Yeah.
Total DWP budget, power and water is about $4.5 billion.
Water side?
800 million.
800 million. Roughly in the region, somewhere around $500 million to move rainwater out. We saw in the LA Times this week, if we combined rainwater and water that we use for flushing toilets, it's 75% of the water we need. But if we were to capture that rainfall we could have 75% more water locally instead of all the water energy we spend and money we spend bringing it in. Up here, sanitation, around 40% of the solid waste stream is the leaves, the mulch, the stuff that falls out of the trees. It's hauled, well, it's now getting recycled, but it should stay on the landscape with jobs tending it to capture that water. Just an example, stormwater pollution, it's been as high as $50 to $100 million a year budget in Los Angeles alone to clean that up. The city's starting, speaking of the national or the state flower or the city flower, is bringing these agencies together. This is our exercise together to cross-pollinate, to find the abilities to do what used to happen naturally, to use what our minds know how to do but aren't capable of doing because the numbers got so great. But we now have computers, we have models, we have brilliant engineers, and you're here. How does that translate into budgets and opportunities? We, years ago, trying to make the case, raised some money and did a cost-benefit analysis and then stuck it in a model that integrated it. And this is a screenshot. There's a picture of another example in your folder. I just wanted to point out, here's the Sun Valley watershed. One of the people who got dizzy when we did the demonstration house in South LA back in 1998 was Carl Bloom, then the head of county flood control. And he woke up. He went, my God, the dots do connect. We can connect them. We can fix this. And he challenged us to take it to the next level. He said, we got to do this county-wide, but let's start with one whole watershed in Los Angeles. And we ran the numbers with our model. What would happen instead of, he had $42 million to build a storm drain for flood control. And if you can't see it, but flood control benefit in this example, these aren't accurate numbers, but this example that we ran, a $60 million flood control benefit. But if we made this a forest, functioning ecosystem, managed it as a watershed, brought multiple people together, it also produced a $75 million savings in air quality, $2 million in energy savings, $172 million worth of water back in the ground, and on and on and on. Green waste, $30, $40 million savings for the city of LA, not having to collect and manage the green waste for 30 years. Just in this one community, 370 jobs created. So the point is, what's possible if we think it right is we can redesign projects, and we can include energy, and we can include transportation, we can include parks, we can include the health issues, bringing enough people to the table, thinking big enough, which is what we're about to be released to do. We can come out with way new collaborations. We did this in Sun Valley, and I'll tell that story later, but it brought multiple diverse players to the table, from the air quality management district to nearly $750,000 invested in the planning process just from the Cal-Fed Bay Delta program. Why would someone protecting fish in the San Francisco Bay and the Sacramento Delta invest $750,000 to plan a watershed project in Los Angeles? Because the benefits are far spread. So with that, I want to kick it back over to Eric.